The Fortnite World Cup Finals and
the first ever Fortnite World Cup.
There's also the thing of you actually being an adult and having to go to work and pay bills and not spend all your time training.
I mean, I
with
just
your
defeated.
coach.
I just finished playing and.
Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Crashy, and today we're going to be talking about Bugha and his victory and kind of like the world perception of Fortnite and esports and all things that go into these crazy news stories and these crazy tweets that you see. And I do have to admit, I was a master debater on Twitter, and I just trolled a bunch of people and pretended to be a salty old person that doesn't understand esports, and it was absolutely hilarious. I'm going to leave the tweet link to that in the description below if you want to check that out. But if you guys don't know, my name is Joseph. I am 27 years old this year in December, and I've been doing gaming for probably more years than some of you guys have been around. My first competitive gaming event, I was 13 years old playing Gears of War on the Xbox 360, and I played at MLG Orlando. And you know, ever since then, you know, what's that, 7, 8, 9, 9, you know, 12 years later, over a decade, I've been playing games competitively, you know, making content here and there, and kind of chasing the dream of esports and you know, what we all love to do. Now at 27, man, I am now definitely one of the older guys still competing, still trying to make a name for himself. And it's something I just love to do. It's not my career. It's not, you know, I'm not out there winning $3 million, and I definitely have a hard time keeping up, you know, with the likes of Bugha and Clicks and all the younger guys. But you have people like Rux and Psalm, and you know, there's so many others that are, you know, are in their 20s that are still competing. And the crazy thing is, I have seen the rise of competitive gaming. I've seen it from when, you know, it was totally unacceptable, you know, even in a lot of normal public situations to even be a gamer. Now it's much more acceptable with your friends and in schools to play games. It's almost flipped now where, you know, you're kind of like the normie if you don't play some kind of game and don't interact with people that play games. And, you know, all the way, you know, up to society where, you know, it's starting to become recognized and more acceptable. The crazy thing though is that it's still not there, and in my mind, again, I've seen it all. I've seen every section of the growth of competitive gaming and esports, and it's so very obvious that, you know, when I'm 50 years old, it's gonna be the big thing. It already is the big thing. People just haven't, you know, haven't grown with it entirely in their minds and haven't you know, been willing to understand exactly what goes into it. You know, the biggest thing is seeing these people that say, you know, oh, you're playing video games in your room, you know, oh my goodness. And that's, you know, yeah, at its essence, that is what it is, but it is training, it is mental, it's physically demanding. I mean, anybody that doesn't experience some kind of wrist pain or shoulder pain while, you know, doing some of these edit courses, you're just not doing it good enough, I guess. And so they don't understand, and that's okay. You know, I think the biggest thing that I've seen in all of this discussion about gaming and esports in the world is the constant discussion about whether or not these players are athletes and whether or not esports is a sport. And, you know, I think that's one of the kind of like the issues with this discussion, because first and foremost, I think to some degree the word athlete is a little bit antiquated in the sense that it definitely has an original feeling of being innately tied to physical sports. That's just the way that it is. But when you really dive into the definition of athlete, to find that it is physically and mentally demanding to you know, achieve some of these things that athletes in the world do, it makes it much more understanding, or much more understandable, that, you know, competitive esports players would be considered athletes. Now, do I think that matters? No, I don't. I think if you're a competitive gamer, you know, if you're an esports professional, I think it's important not to care what people label you as. I think it's important to do what you do and to focus on improving, and to let the rest of the world, you know, do their best to catch up to what we already know we have, while, you know, letting your own industry and your own peers define you as they want to define you, because that's really what matters, is the esports industry and, you know, the opinion and kind of drive and thoughts of your peers and your industry professionals. As for whether or not esports is a sport, you know, again, it's the same thing. I don't really think it matters what the title is. A part of me, I even said this yesterday when talking on Discord with a few friends, a part of me wishes that the name esports never really grew to the forefront. You know, back in the day, it used to be just called competitive gaming. That's how, you know, when I was literally growing up and, you know, going to gaming competitions, it was just called competitive gaming. It wasn't MLG esports events. It really wasn't. It was just the Major League Gaming. And I almost wish it would have stuck with that a little bit. I think the notion of putting the word sport in it, it just causes a little bit too much social controversy, and it almost creates a fixation that is really unnecessary and irrelevant to the point of how this industry actually works. Because at the end of the day, esports is popular because there's a demand for it. There are millions and millions of people watching what other people can do, and that is how the advertising world works. That is how the money is generated. That's how games like Fortnite are so, you know, vastly successful. And you know, despite whether or not someone can understand or can even enjoy it themselves, it's a simple supply and demand type situation. You know, these competitions, this level of play is in high demand, and to get to that level, you have to dedicate, you know, 6 to 8 to 10 to 12 hours a day to be at that level. And, you know, whether or not you're an athlete, whether or not this is a sport, I think it's irrelevant. But what is for sure is that it's here to stay. And the insane amount of hours and training and practice that just goes into it it's admirable. I mean, look at what Bugha, Aqua, and Nyrox were able to do and what they're able to achieve. Psalm, you know, picking up $1.8 million. And it was not easy, and not everybody can do it. So congratulations to all the World Cup winners and placings, and to Epic Games, the team, the esports crew, and on-air talent, everybody that made this happen. It was a phenomenal experience, and I'm super happy to be a part of it as a viewer. And hey, at 27 years old, I'm still, you know, out there grinding games and trying to make a name for myself. I'm going to be playing in future competitions and working on my content. So let me know in the comment section down below, what did you think of this video? Please do not leave without leaving a like, and I appreciate you for stopping by. Thanks again, and I'll see you on the next video.
Do you feel your bones start to shake? Do you feel the earthquake? Do you feel the fire inside of me? Do you see the sparks that I'm setting free? Does the beat take you over? You just